for the first time ever now, we have a majority of Ukrainians who support membership of NATO. That was never the case. There was always a majority in support of EU membership, because that wasn't controversial. Supporting membership of the European Union wasn't really a controversial issue, because it's recognized as a kind of an institution that promotes democracy, human rights, market economy, and such like, and it's not an institution that really has geopolitical objectives. But NATO was always seen as something negative by a large number of Ukrainians, and particularly, of course, Russians, where you have a xenophobically anti-Western, anti-American campaign going on for at least the last decade. In Ukraine, you had, up till the Kuchma era, up till 2004, you had about 1/3 in favor of membership, 1/3 opposed, and 1/3 indifferent. That deteriorated against NATO membership under Yanukovych, because he was basically supporting the Russian line that Ukraine shouldn't join NATO. That's all changed. Now we have a majority of Ukrainians in support of NATO membership, close to 50%, which means that in a referendum it would be higher than 50%, and a minority opposed to NATO membership. That is a major change in Ukrainian foreign policy. Also added to that is a massive decline and collapse in support of integration with Russia and with the CIS. Up until 2013, you had at least about 30%, maybe sometimes higher, support for amongst Ukrainians for integration into Putin's CIS customs union, which was meant to evolve into a Eurasian union. That's gone. Now we're talking about anything between 10 and 15% still back that, which is a minuscule amount of people compared to EU and NATO membership support. So that has also changed. And what's changed as well is, related to that, is that Vladimir Putin is the most negatively viewed foreign leader in Ukraine today. He has negative ratings in Ukraine of something in the region of 75%. Nobody is detested as much as Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. Ukrainians also detest the Russian government. Similar figures of around 70+% of Ukrainians who think negatively of the Russian government. What's interesting is that far, far fewer, only something like 15% of Ukrainians have negative views of Russians living in Russia. So that shows that this is, Ukrainians are very mature politically in that they can differentiate between the population and the actions of the government and the president. And that shows more a growth of patriotism as opposed to some kind of crazy nationalism.